to you guys about a very difficult subject. I know I've grown up around people that have had this, and I'm going to be talking about is cancer, and I know all of you guys have probably as well. It's a very difficult subject to talk about just because people have passed away from it and it's really hard to overcome, and a lot of people around the world today have it. What I'm talking to you about I'm not actually an expert on, but I've done my research, and so just hear me out and that would be great. So, whenever I was growing up, there were two girls in two grades above me, who both got cancer around the same time in high school. They both ended up passing away, but what they left behind is a legacy. There are two trees that are on the pathway that I see every day or every week when I go to church, and both of them are planted in remembrance of these two girls. They signify a lot because they did leave behind, both of them left behind legacies, one of them being Michaela's Army and the other one being 1 million for Anna. Both of these legacies were left behind in order to raise money for cancer research, which is extremely important because both of these girls had different types of cancer, and this research goes directly to funding to find a cure for both of those different types of cancer, which is extremely important, and you'll see later on why I'm saying this. So, like I said, I know people who have had cancer in their lives, and I'm sure all of you do as well. In fact, my grandmother had cancer before I was born. She had breast cancer. She did overcome it, and that's great, but what I'm here to talk to you today about is how we are actually not winning the war against cancer. And when I say winning the war against cancer, I mean cancer as a whole. I don't mean cancer as some person who overcame cancer like my grandmother. She did win her war against cancer. I just mean cancer in all of its different types of forms. So, we need to know that we need to do more than just justifying the conventional way to cure cancer. We need to fight the causes more so than the symptoms, and we need to know that there are other types of cancer that are going to become more prevalent as we find cures for other diseases. And I will explain all of this as we go. So, like I just said, there are too many causes just to justify the conventional way to cure cancer. There are causes such as bad diet, stress in your everyday life. This could come from school, from home, from work. And there's genetic predisposition, which is where a gene is passed down from a family member to another family member, and it is more apt to cause cancer in the future for that family member. Another is smoking, which I'm sure we all are aware of because there are so many commercials telling us to stop smoking. This can cause lung cancer as well as it's bad for your skin. Radiation is another. It can interfere with the chemical imbalance in cells and cause cancer. Another is pollution in water. It can interfere with your nervous system and cause cancer as well. What I'm saying when I say the conventional approach is what you all are pretty much aware of. It's the surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. And surgery is by removing the tumor. It's the oldest form and approach that we have. And you remove the tumor and then you remove the healthy tissue around the tumor in hopes that it doesn't grow back. And this is all hoping that it hasn't metastasized and spread throughout the body. Radiation is where you use rays to target the cancer cells, and then when you target the cancer cells, you're targeting them so that they commit suicide, so that the cancer cells commit suicide. The other is chemotherapy. It's where you have a chemical interference with the cell division process, and it's where you target those cell divisions, and it causes the cells to commit suicide as well. And chemotherapy is usually for when the cells have metastasized throughout the body, so cancer has spread. So this is from Richard Harris on NPR, and it states that between everybody that has cancer today to everybody that's probably ever had cancer since the beginning of humankind, each person has had different molecular alterations in this disease. So as you can see, everyone has different types of cancer, and each individual has different types. So we need to find cures not just for the whole umbrella approach of cancer. We need to find specifically for everyone's different type, especially because everyone has different molecular alterations. So my second main point ties in with my first. It's that we need to fight more than just the symptoms. We need to fight the causes. So like I said, with bad diet, there are healthy diets out there, or you can exercise, eat healthier. You don't have to be super skinny to have a healthy body. Stress is another one. You can find stress relievers in your daily life through yoga or different exercises, or if you just need time to yourself, or you need your friends to just take some stress away from you. Another is gene therapy. This has to do with gene predisposition, which I was talking about earlier. Through gene therapy, they target and they mutate the cells that are the genes that would have caused cancer eventually, and they mutate them so that the cancer is hopefully not going to be around in the future for that one individual. And this is extremely early in its process, so they don't have a ton of results yet, and I'm sure it costs a lot of money for this to happen. Another is stop smoking. Way easier said than done. They have so many commercials about it. I know there are trials out there and so many ways to help individuals stop smoking. And this is extremely important. And people tend to think that they could smoke for a certain amount of time and they've already smoked, so why not just continue? But that's not the case. If you stop, you are that much closer to not having cancer. Another that we all know about are vaccines. There's the Gardasil one, and it helps fight different types of HPV, 2 types of HPV, that cause 70% of cervical cancer. I did have Gardasil, and then hepatitis B is another one, and it prevents against liver cancer. So this is from Medical News Today, all of what I just said, and it states that only 10% of cancer-related deaths are caused by the primary tumors. So if we can fight these causes, then we won't even have that 10% of primary tumors, and that 90% from the metastasized cells will not exist. My third point being that cancer will only become more prevalent as cures to other diseases are found. These are what I'm about to talk about comes from Real Clear Science Journal Club and the Business Insider. In the 1900s, our average male lived in the early 1900s. Our average male lived to about 46 years old, and our average female lived to about 48 years old. In 2010, our average male lived to 76 years old, and our average female lived to 81 years old. As you can see, the lifespan basically doubled in the century that we just went through. So in 1900, cancer wasn't even in the top 5 reasons for a common death. In 2010, it is number 2, right behind heart disease. The top 5 in the 1900s were pneumonia, influenza, tuberculosis, gastrointestinal infections, heart disease, and cerebrovascular disease. As you can see, cancer is not listed there. But we have come up with cures to some of these illnesses, and that has caused cancer to become more prevalent and move to the number 2 spot. So, in the words of Alex Barrezo, we are dying of cancer because we are running out of things to die from. So, I don't know what your definition of war is, but for cancer, it could be one individual who, like I said earlier, had cancer and overcame it and is cancer-free and they won their war against cancer. It could be one individual who passed away, but cancer no longer touches them and they won their war against cancer. But cancer as a whole is something that we still are fighting and we are not winning at the moment. So we need to fight more than just the symptoms. We need to fight the causes. We need to know that the conventional way of treating cancer is not going to work for everyone's different types of cancer. And we need to know that cancer is still going to be around and even become more prevalent as we find cures to more and more diseases. So cancer in the Merriam-Webster Dictionary is stated as a serious disease caused by cells that are not normal and that can spread to one or many parts of the body. One day, I hope this is in the past tense. One day, I hope it says, cancer was a serious disease and we kicked its butt. Thank you.